in econ, and we're going to learn about it. So chapter 13, and it's our only chapter this week is the other item. That's kind of nice, but it is a long chapter, so it's there's quite a bit of content packed into one. I've seen other books where they break it into 2 chapters anyway, so it's a little bit longer. That's why I designed it the way it is, so we'll leave it with just money. So how do we pay for things? So chapter 13, money. So how can you pay for things? We're going to start off with brainstorming different ways you guys buy things. How do you pay when you need to buy something? So I want to get a nice long list of payments. So go ahead and shout them out. You don't even have to. Seth? Debit card. Good.
Apple Pay.
Cash, Apple Pay. Okay, hold on, slow down a little bit here. I'm going to catch up here. So cash / currency. Apple Pay. Okay, and did somebody say another one?
Check.
Check. Venmo, good. Venmo, and let's go ahead and just add a few more of the apps like that. We got Zelle and Cash App, and I'll just put ... Those are all kind of in that same avenue. Huh?
Credit card.
Credit card, yes. Number 6, a credit card. Okay, good. Keep it coming. Think of a few more ways that you can pay for something. The list gets harder as we get deeper. Huh? Trade, sure, yeah. So trade / barter is the word of, we're talking good for good. Could be service for good. If you go to a restaurant and you say, hey, I don't have any money, but I'll wash dishes for an hour. Can I get a hamburger? Right? So you can trade your labor maybe for some goods, or good for service, vice versa. So trade and bartering, yeah.
Would points be one? Like when you have points out?
Sure. Yeah. Good one. So points. And I guess I was trying to think of how to word that. I know what you mean, like value points or customer points that you built up, right?
Yeah.
Points. Let's put just points from the business, right? So it's you build up 10 points and then you can buy something. Yeah.
Would food stamps be one?
Yeah, absolutely. Anything that you use to purchase something. So food stamps. Anything you give in exchange for it.
Isn't it like a payment plan fall into that, or is that no longer cash and currency?
No, I think that's fair, like a private loan if you're doing a payment plan, because it could be like a credit card too, right? But I don't know if you're thinking more like a private loan or something, an IOU of some sort, right? So some sort of promise to pay in the future of some sort. Madison?
Would Clarity one's kind of like that? It's like when you buy stuff online, then you get 4 payments.
What's it called? Clara
or something.
Clara? Is it fall into one of? Is it like points or not really, or is it just a payment plan thing right away? Like an installment plan kind of?
Yeah.
Okay, that's slightly different. Let's put that down if that's what it is. Installment plan.
Would donations also count? Or would that fall under something else?
What do you mean exactly?
Like, say you need money for a surgery, or maybe you need money for rent because you can't pay it on time. And you go online and you GoFundMe. It's like, hey, can you send me this?
No, I'll say no, because then you're going to use those donations and pay with some other form, right? So it's kind of the indirectly using them. Was that? Huh? Cryptos, yeah, okay. So installment. I was going to put under installment plan another thing that before I put crypto down, layaway. You guys know what that is? That's kind of an old system. So which I wasn't sure if it's similar to the Clara thing you were just describing, but you tell me if it is. So you go to Walmart, still does this today. So you want to buy, you find this cute dress that you really want, but you don't have the money. And so you say, hey, Walmart, I'm going to put this, can I put this on layaway, right? And the dress is $40 on it. And so they put the dress in the back room and hold it for you. And you make payments of $10 a month, and 4 months later, you've made enough payments, and then you get the dress. So it's not an IOU, right? Because Walmart never gives you the dress, but they are giving you something, they're holding it back. So it's almost like a reverse loan in a sense. They're not going to give you the dress until your payments have been made. But then yet the dress hasn't been sold, right? It was the perfect fit and you need it for a wedding or whatever the case is. So that's called layaway. So that's kind of an older fashioned way people used to buy stuff. Now with credit cards and all these other things so prevalent, the culture is kind of moved towards, I'll just charge it, right? But if you've taken my personal finance class, I don't like that system. Layaway, it would be a better system to use. So, all right, cryptos. So cryptocurrency. So one of these, the biggest one would be Bitcoin, but then it's possible other places might do that. Okay, we got a few more we could still add. We're not quite done with this list yet.
Like government checks.
If they, in the right circumstance, maybe, but that one's kind of. If you give me a little more detail, do you have something specific in mind? Okay, just like, because if you get a check like these COVID checks we got, right? So $1,500. Usually you wouldn't go to somebody and say, hey, I'll third party endorse this to buy $1,500 worth of stuff for you, right? It would go kind of like the donation thing. You put it into your checking account and then you buy something. So that's.
I think that's the same thing as points, but like when you a lot like miles when you fly.
Yeah, you're kind of getting on. Yeah, so it would be like points. We just put this on miles, right? Yeah, so you're right. That would be in there, but you are getting to one that is a little different than that. Jesse, what did you?
I was gonna say, I think it might fall under bartering, kind of, but like collateral. Like I give you my backpack, and then you give me something. Then when I return whatever I got from you.
Okay, yeah. So it's kind of what the pawn shop does, right? So the pawn shop. Yeah, let's put that up here. So.
I'm just not sure the word for it exactly.
Well, it really is pawning, literally. That's why you call it a pawn shop. So the idea of the pawn is that, and normally you're getting cash with the pawn shop, so that's a little bit different. But
yeah.
Let's put pawn with a trade. So you really need something at the pawn shop. You don't have cash, but you'll give them your leaf blower if they give you their chainsaw. Like that, this is a bit of a stretch. I'm glad you guys are pushing the envelope here, but so yeah.
Do taxes count for stuff like national security?
Would what, taxes? No, because those are all forced. I still want this to be a voluntary exchange. But I was thinking something like a coupon, which you guys are close to saying here with some of this stuff, a good old-fashioned coupon. So if you get a digital coupon, right, or an advertisement or something, a paper coupon still from the newspaper.
Yeah, coupons. Crazy.
And then I'm going to add another one that is almost obsolete, but it might come in a traveler's check.
Traveler's check.
So traveler's check was something that was kind of invented before the credit card was so popular. And you can get a check that is a piece of paper drafted from a bank, and if you go on vacation, they'll take it anywhere as if it's money. But it's a piece of paper that is like $100 traveler's check. And then you go to the cash register and it's that, and then the people know that this is good. And the protective feature here, instead of a $100 bill, if you lose a $100 bill, you're out $100, right? If you lose the traveler's check, they checked your ID when you were doing it. And so if you wanted to go on vacation, again, you guys probably your families have spent a couple $1,000s on vacation, right? Well, it wasn't that much different 20, 30 years ago. people would spend a $2,000, so instead of bringing $2,000 worth of cash and they were a little afraid they might lose it or it get stolen or something, they would bring traveler's checks because they didn't necessarily have again, the credit card. So that one's almost obsolete, but it is it's basically off of your bank account. It's a mechanism, so. But I can't quite get rid of it. I would almost not bring it up, but it still is. You might find it in the text or something. Lazar?
Gift cards.
Gift cards, good. Yeah, somebody had done gift cards, yeah. Okay, I think we've hit most of the ones, probably even more than what I was looking to do. Just kind of get you going on different ways we pay for things. And so the reason I'm doing that is that a lot of these things are not money in terms of how we're defining money for the economic system here. So the definition of money. So money defined is anything that is generally accepted as a means of payment. So anything that is generally accepted as a means of payment. Okay, so let's start with gift cards. Does gift cards fit this definition if you've got a Walmart gift card?
Yeah.
Anything that is generally accepted as a means of payment. I'm hearing some yeses. Do I hear any no's? Anything that's generally accepted by all merchants, all businesses as a means of payment. Do they take your Walmart gift card? No. So gift cards are not, Walmart of course accepts them, but all businesses, all people aren't going to generally accept them as a means of payment for what they're offering. Smoke Creations isn't going to take your Walmart gift card.
If we're gonna argue that, then should we also cross off coupons?
Well, hold on, whoa. So let me drive this ship here. So, is currency or cash generally accepted as a means of payment? Yes. So this one is generally accepted. So I kind of wanted to give you those two extremes because kind of hanging your hat on, is it, generally accepted as a means of payment? Is a debit card generally accepted as a means of payment? Is a credit card generally accepted as a means of payment? Yes. Now, what's the difference between the debit card and the credit card?
Debit is money that you actually have, credit is them like paying for it, you have to pay them back.
Okay, so this one is an instant IOU, right? This is an instant IOU. This one is representing your money in your checking account, right? So your debit card is with your checking account. And the card is a mechanism to draw from your account, right? So it's a mechanism to draw from your account. So the checking account is money. The actual physical card is not. So we want to make a distinction now between the actual card and money. So the debit card, all by itself, is not money. This green stuff is money, right? So you can kind of think about it if they come along this on the ground, which happened to be in Vegas, by the way. I lost the Autumn University credit card somewhere in the parking ramp outside the airport. But you walk around, you're like, oh, wow, I'm so lucky I found this. Is it likely that you're going to be able to use this and get stuff?
Probably not.
Probably not, or it'll eventually be rejected, or you might be thrown in jail, right? But if you find this one, It's yours, baby, right? Finders keepers, losers weepers. You haven't broken any law by picking this up and running to the store and buying it. So the card itself is not money, but the checking account behind the card is money. All right, so then that's going to be the same thing going on with a check. The check itself, the physical piece of paper, is not money, but the checking account that you're using that instrument to draw from is money. So these three things are money. This is not money, the credit card, and then the account behind it, somebody else's money is there, but the IOU is not money either, the instant loan that you got by using your card. All right, so then we get into these new weird ones here that are almost like digital currency. So Apple Pay, again, if you don't, Apple Pay is not a bank, right? But they have an account, and they have an account somewhere, hopefully. Do we really know that for sure? Do we audit everything that Apple's actually holding our money somewhere? So be careful with, I saw a nonprofit had a Venmo balance of about $22,000, and I'm like, I would move that out of that account. I mean, it doesn't have the same protections that checking accounts and savings accounts do. You know, the whole FDIC back to 200. So if all of a sudden Venmo goes out of business, there's a chance your money's not protected. So it's not a good place to keep a lot of money. You should only keep transactional amounts of money with all of these things. So in general, again, these aren't tied to the account. They're kind of mechanisms for it. Now Zelle, I don't know, I used it a little bit. That one seems to work off of your checking account directly. So again, but Zelle itself is not the money, but to the extent that it's really tied to your checking account, then we're on to something. So the checking account is always money. So if it's, again, a mechanism to get it, that would be different. But in general, any of these are not in the money category. All right, so food stamps, generally accepted?
No.
No. IOU, we've already done. Points, of course not. Trade or barter? No, you can't go wash dishes and generally get a hamburger for it, right? Installment plans, layaways, cryptocurrency, ooh.
No.
Bitcoin, the new money,
No.
generally accepted. Most places are taking it. No, not yet. Maybe I think I'm down to 7 years. I made the prediction in this classroom 3 years ago that 10 years from today, Bitcoin might be considered money. I said it will be considered money, but I'm an economist, so I can make predictions and not have them come true. That's not a big deal.
No.
But we got a ways to go. It tried, even in its infancy, it tried to get that way. And of course, pawning and coupons. Now, traveler's checks, like I said, are actually tied to the check itself is not, but the bank account is. Okay, so you see we crossed off a lot of things on the list. So that brings us to one of our first definitions of money for the economy. And so there's two that we're going to focus in on. So two definitions of money by the government. That's the general definition. But now we're going to get into government defining M1. So the M does stand for money. M1 is equal to the currency in circulation. Currency in circulation plus checking accounts, deposits. Okay, so we got to be careful with the currency in circulation. So what kind of currency am I excluding, do you think, if I'm saying the words in circulation? do you think that means? Currency in circulation.
If there's money out of circulation, maybe too old to use.
Yeah, okay, Justin?
Money in banks.
Money in banks is one of them. That's absolutely right. So that's a good one. So we call that vault cash. So currency circulation means not vault cash. So if you go bring $1,000, 10 $100 bills, you put it into your bank, and the money that they keep in the drawer, so we use the word vault, but it's actually inside the bank. It could be in their cash drawers, but so vault cash is the word. Basically, it's inside the bank. So we're going to kind of use the bank as being part of the banking system and how we define things. And that's it. If you have money in your underwear drawer, is that in circulation? You've had it there for 2 years. It's your emergency fund that I suggested you should keep as a college student. So you've got $300 in cash in your underwear drawer. You haven't touched it for 1.5 years since you took personal finance. Is that money in circulation according to this definition? Justin? Yes, Justin's got this down. So yes, it's not circulating because it's in your underwear drawer, but it is by the government's definition outside of the banking system. I brought down at least 20 $100 bills to Argentina when I went to Antarctica in December. So now there's $2,000 floating around Argentina, and it's probably never coming back because they use the dollars as a backup currency to their currency, which is lousy. And that's what a lot of countries do. Is that in circulation if it's outside of the United States floating around Buenos Aires, Argentina?
That's what's
$2,000, crispy $100 bills I brought down there, 20 of them. What do you think, Justin?
Yes.
Yes, that it's in circulation?
Yeah.
Yes. He's 3 for 3. It's not inside the bank, it's in circulation. So we have a lot of dollars that are floating around the world because there's a lot of countries that use dollars. Maybe we should have went to Colombia. And the drug cartel has a bedroom with $10 million in $100 bills. That is in circulation, right? So anytime it's outside of the bank, it is outside the banking system. It's in circulation. And sometimes they try to make estimates of how much there is. If you go down, when I was in Zimbabwe a couple years ago, you'll get some dollar bills or some other American currency that you can barely read. It's so tattered and torn and just barely usable. That doesn't happen in the United States very much because if we end up making a trip to the Fed, they take those old dollar bills and they replace them with new dollar bills. So we're kind of churning over the dollar bills to them in the United States, but if it's sitting over in Zimbabwe being traded in Harare, the capital, that money isn't coming back to anything within our banking system so that they can do it. So what happens when you guys go to make a deposit and you give 100 $1 bills, they will sort through. If there's some that are all ratty and crinkly and ripped, they put them in a special drawer. And then when the bank, when the Federal Reserve comes by for some of their regular trips, they'll give them those bills to be replaced with a newer bill. So we're always kind of churning over. A lot of money is spent actually on maintaining our currency, and that is one of the arguments of going to a digital currency, which, by the way, I am totally against going to an all digital currency. So basically, imagine eliminating cash altogether, and effectively all we do is debit cards and everything. So eliminating paper currency is moving towards a digital currency. So in some ways, this is a digital currency, your checking account balances, right? It's just a number on a spreadsheet. And then as we'll learn, well, where is that money? Well, that's part of what we're gonna do in this chapter, is kind of see where that money is sitting. Okay, so any last questions here? All right, so then our next definition is M2. So what M2 is going to do is add on some other types of accounts. And so the most important element of M2 is M1. So it's all of M1 now adding on savings accounts. So if you have money in checking and savings, which a lot of people do, right? How many of you have both a savings account and a checking account? You have both. All right, so your checking account shows up on the government calculations up here for M1, but it wouldn't show up for M2. So savings accounts are down here, and both your checking and savings are down here. So we got savings accounts plus small time deposits. And what we mean by small is not so small for the average Joe, but less than $100,000 in value. So have you guys heard of a CD, a certificate of deposit maybe? So that's a time deposit. And how that works is you go to the bank and you put in $10,000, I'm going to buy a CD, a certificate of deposit, and I'm going to buy a 3-month CD. And so the bank knows that you're not going to come get their money for 3 months, so that it allows them maybe some more options to do some lending with it, or a 6-month CD or a 1-year CD. So there's a time element to the deposit. And if you do withdraw it early, there's like a 10% penalty for early withdrawal. All right, and then the last one here is money market accounts. So money market accounts generally have a higher interest rate, but they also have a higher minimum balance typically. So a lot of banks, this might be $25,000. So there's a nicer interest rate, but again, you have to maintain a minimum balance of $25,000. If you fall below $25,000, then you're going to have some fees associated with it. Okay, so this extra stuff we added on, how does it compare to M1? Why do we add it on separately? Why do we have a separate classification? What do you notice about these things relative to these two? What do you see as the difference? We've got checking and currency up top, and then we add on savings, small time deposits, and money market accounts. Nick?
It's money that you can't easily spend.
Good, yeah. This is money that's a little more tied up, right? You're not likely to spend it very quickly. It's not very hard to jump on your phone app and transfer money from your savings to your checking, right? So that's pretty much instantaneous to use it. But this one might cost you a penalty, and this one if you fall below the balance, right? So it's a little more sticky in a sense. And so what it plays on is the idea of liquidity. Liquidity is going down as we start to add more assets on to the list. So let me see how this textbook did with it. Okay, they're showing it was money. That's the way I usually like to do it. Some books do it a little different. And I'm going to do it 2 ways. I'm going to give you the idea of liquidity is the ability to transfer wealth from one asset to another. So maybe your parents have faced this dilemma when you were growing up and you're like, oh, the kids are getting so big, we need a bigger house, honey, right? And so what you really want to do is take your existing house and maybe some additional cash or a loan, but and move to a bigger house, right? So you want to transfer the old house into a new house. And is that very easy to do when you're talking about owning a house?
Depends on how rich you are.
Not really. There's still going to be a little bit of pain to go along with it with transaction costs. So even if you're rich and you own it in cash, it'll be easier. But in general, it's kind of difficult for anybody to transfer houses. So the house isn't very liquid, right? It's not very liquid in that sense. So your book defines this kind of the way we normally do. What is a liquid asset? And a liquid asset is an asset that is easy to convert into money. So an asset that is easily converted into money. Because what's really going on, even with your parents' house, is you're going to need to sell the house, take the money, and then buy the new house, right? So there's a transfer needed. And so in general, a liquid asset is one that's pretty easy to change into money. So, let's take an example here of, let's take a stock. So $100 of value in a mutual fund, an investment. So you've been saving up money in a mutual fund. This one's pretty liquid. It's probably highly liquid. It always has to compare it to something else. Call, broker, and sell. And money is in your account, checking account, in 1 day. That's a pretty liquid asset. If we can convert something in 24 hours, that's pretty good. How long do you got to wait to transfer your Venmo balance to your checking account? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I actually kind of forgot that when I said it. So what if you do it for free?
1 to 3 days.
Yeah, 1 to 3 days. And so I think most of the time it's about 24 hours. But they purposely are kind of putting less liquidity into that because it's their rule and they have to kind of manage their funds. So, the whole PayPal, Venmo game is let's have this ease of transaction thing where we'll let people, we're going to end up having $10 million, but that $10 million is always kind of flowing, right? So the average daily balance of thousands, maybe millions of customers having $100, $200, $300, $2,000 balances in Venmo, they get to use that money and make some money off that before it flows. So it's always this continual flow of you with your money with Venmo, but ultimately you're planning to spend that money fairly quickly and move it off to somewhere else. And so they impose that. So what Madison brought up there is that you can get it instant if you pay a
7%.
fee. Yeah, and it's like probably 3% or 2%?
I thought it was 7, but I could be wrong.
Was it 7%?
That's what I thought.
I see some other people shaking their head. 7? That sounds too high, but
It varies, I think.
I wouldn't think it would vary. But all right, so that's your homework problem. Tomorrow, don't do it now, of course. But tomorrow, let's have an answer to the Venmo fee. I could probably pull mine out too on seeing what it is. But yeah, the instant fee. All right, it could be, wouldn't totally shock me. I'd be surprised a little bit if it was a variable fee, but it could be maybe if it was prime time or something. Anything to make a little extra money. All right, number 2 is, the house value. $100,000 house. Probably takes, and this depends on the market, but 60 to 90 days might be the average time to get it sold at a fair price. So we're not going to have a fire sale where we're cutting the price in half just to get the house sold, but can you reasonably get the $100,000 house sold for your $100,000? And so this is highly unliquid or not liquid. Okay, so we've got three functions of money. Three functions of money. Number one is to serve as a medium of exchange. And this is really back to the definition of it. So, generally accepted for payment of goods and services. So that one we kind of covered with the definition, but we'll treat it as it's used as a medium of exchange. I should probably play the video that we did for our PPE League commercial. So the PPE League was "The Future of Money" was the title of it. And so our OU team did a little skit. Maybe I will show that later. So I'll try to take that. But how about in jail? What have you seen in the movies that gets used as money?
Cigarettes.
Smokes. So cigarettes. So people are starting to use those, and so why are they, using them? Well, we'll kind of see that through here. So we got people are generally accepting them as a medium of exchange. They serve as a unit of account. A unit of account.
I wonder if they're defaulted to I wonder if it's better.
Old. I'll come for questions, comments. So quoting things in a common unit helps us compare relative value. So maybe we have, 3 cigarettes equals 1 sugar cookie. 4 cigarettes equals 1 chocolate chip. So people are finding, oh, this one's 4 and this one's 3. So the chocolate chip cookie, it's easier to see, has some higher value to it. Now that could also come out through barter and trade. So you want a sugar cookie for my chocolate chip? I tell you what, I'll give you 3/4 of my chocolate chip cookie for your 1 sugar cookie. See how we can do it the same way through bartering or trade? If we can break the cookie into parts, I'll give you 3/4 of a chocolate chip cookie. That cookie's more valuable than the sugar cookie. So there's different ways to go about getting the value, but it's a lot easier when we can just quote it in a common unit. Then it makes trade easier and faster. All right, questions or comments there?
I wonder if tobacco is defaulted as a form of currency so much because it's addictive substance.
No. It's not so much the addiction part that has had tobacco. So tobacco's kind of had a history, even in the early parts of the United States development, that tobacco was used. And it's more about, actually you're just going to lead me right into this next one. A store of value. So you've got the common units, and you can break your tobacco down into different sizes, so different weights of tobacco. But also it will store for a while, so that it won't. So imagine using tomatoes instead of tobacco. How long of a shelf life we got with tomatoes? Maybe a week or so, right? So it doesn't have a very good store of value if you have something that's perishable. So the store of value is that it is a convenient way to store your wealth. So tomatoes versus cigarettes. So cigarettes, how many smokes are in a pack?
Depends on the sizes.
Normal pack on average, I don't really know. I feel like it's about 20 maybe. That sound good? So we can pull out individual cigarettes. It's a little more easier to divide, break them apart. And those individual cigarettes won't lose their value as much. So cigarettes last long and more easily divisible. 20 per pack, let's say, for example, and that might vary depending on the pack. Tomatoes are going to get a little yucky in 1 week, and even more yucky if we start dividing up, right? Tomato slices don't work well. How about the weight is high for an individual unit? So whereas tobacco is pretty light, right? So that was one of the things with gold. Gold had last a long time, so that was a good property for gold and gold coins. But if you had a large purchase or something, how are you carrying your gold to the transaction? So that became kind of difficult to do as well. So all these features, and this is where something like Bitcoin ends up being real light to carry around, doesn't it? Pretty light. And so, you know, will it last a long time? Well, yeah, we're not going to spend a lot of time on Bitcoin here, but if you want to take my money and banking class, it'll be coming up this fall, especially if you're an econ major or a finance major. It's a required class, and we'll do a whole little book on Bitcoin. It's called the Bitcoin Standard. And so there we got, and then Professor Eschnauer teaches a crypto course as well that you'll learn not only about Bitcoin, about some other ones too. So, but some of the features of, is Bitcoin ever going to become money? It needs some of these elements, right? Bitcoin's not accepted as a means of exchange. It's not being used so much as a unit of account, although it's not too hard to find the unit of account. And then, is it going to last a long time? Can more be replicated? How are they replicated? And so then you can get into some issues there. Okay, questions or comments?
I'm not entirely sure, but I've heard in some instances that if tobacco is like aged, it gets better. I think that might also have some effect on the store value.
No, I don't think. I think tobacco generally does not get better. That at least with the tobacco used for cigarettes, that it is going to deteriorate. They don't age it like a wine, if I remember correctly from this
I
reader.
can't think of like cigars specifically.
Yeah, I mean there might be some, but it's not the average.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see, what do we got next here? Okay, so yeah, what's backing our currency? How much gold is there? What's backing our money? So cigarettes have some value. Is it gold, silver, Bitcoin? What is backing this? Like, it's really just a piece of paper, right? Whereas if you're carrying gold coin, the gold is intrinsic in the coin itself. If you're using cigarettes, there's some value to lighting it up. Some of the stories from the prisoners of war camp are like, I'm smoking money right now, right? It's like I'm smoking my money, which is true. So what's backing this? Where is the gold kept in the United States? Fort Knox. Is that what's backing this? Can we go change this into gold? Have you guys ever heard of that? Being able to bring your dollars to your bank or to the Federal Reserve, some sort of government agency, and hey, here's $20, give me my equivalent amount of gold. Have you ever heard of that even? No, of course not, because on every bill, in the back, does anyone remember what it says here, who we trust in? In God we trust, not the government, baby. There's nothing backing this. There's no physical assets whatsoever backing this. Historically, we were on a gold standard when it started, and then we got off the gold standard with the Bretton Woods Agreement, and then there was kind of a loose connection to gold that Nixon in 1971 eventually went completely off the gold standard. And so it is just a fiat currency, unbacked currency. So what is backing our money? Nothing. In God we trust. Why did we have 10% inflation? Because we trusted the government to be responsible and they broke our trust. So there's nothing backing the currency. What that means is that the government can influence the value of money and create inflation by printing off more of it. So this means the government has discretionary power to diminish the value of the dollar by creating more money. What do we call that when the government has diminished the dollar? It's one of our biggies. Nope. What is it? When the value of this thing, it used to buy 20 McDonald's hamburgers, but now it only buys 15. Inflation. The one thing we've been talking about the whole time, that's our big connection here. So this is inflation, is the diminishing of the value. Turns out the government creates our inflation. So we will pick it up there tomorrow.